When I was growing up, my family had this tradition that I thought was just quirky fun, not realizing it was completely illegal. My dad would rouse us at the crack of dawn on random Saturdays, declaring it an explorer's day. We'd all clamber into our creaky old van, which Mom nicknamed the ghost wagon after some cartoon reference that made us giggle. We'd hit the road for hours, heading to nearby towns or cities within driving distance. These explorers' days always revolved around what Dad called lost places. Abandoned warehouses, shuttered clinics, derelict schools, or half-built structures. He'd prepare these little backpacks for each of us, stuffed with flashlights, work gloves, granola bars, and water. We'd park a few streets away and sneak into these places through rusted gates or side doors. To me, this was just our family's version of a weekend outing. I genuinely believed every family did stuff like this. I'd brag about it at school, thinking it was cool, but my third-grade teacher gave me this odd look once, and I brushed it off. Dad had strict rules for these trips. No sharing photos online. Made sense, privacy and all. Keep our voices low inside, and if we spotted anyone, we'd use our code word, pineapple, and bolt. We could each pick one small keepsake, but only if it was clearly forgotten or broken. We were never to reveal where we'd been. My brother, Leo, loved these outings. He started collecting bits and pieces, a chipped gear from an old mill, a cracked glass knob from a rundown motel. Mom would help him display them in shadow boxes in his room. I wasn't big on collecting, but the thrill of sneaking into forbidden places gave me a rush. Then, when I was 14, I was hanging out at my friend Sophie's house. Her dad was a cop. We were chatting about weekend plans, and I casually mentioned our family's exploring habit without giving specifics. Sophie's dad started asking questions, and I described how we'd poke around deserted buildings. His face turned serious, and he asked if we had permission to enter these places. I was like, no, they're empty. He explained that what we were doing was trespassing and breaking and entering. Actual crimes. I was stunned. In my head, if a place was deserted, it was free to explore. He even said taking keepsakes was theft. I went home feeling like my world had tilted. My entire childhood revolved around something illegal, but my parents were the most boring, law-abiding people otherwise. Dad was a bookkeeper. Mom helped at the community center. I tried asking Mom about it, but she got this nervous look and switched topics fast. That's when I knew they were aware it was wrong. Over the next few months, our explorers' days dwindled. Dad claimed he was swamped with work, but I figured they knew I'd caught on. Then, last month, Dad announced a special explorers' night. He'd found a massive old estate 2 hours away, supposedly perfect and safe. Leo was thrilled, but I had a bad feeling. Still, I didn't want to miss out, so I went. This place wasn't like our usual spots. It was a sprawling estate, half-renovated, with construction tools scattered around and some rooms still furnished. It didn't feel abandoned, more like someone was actively working on it. I whispered to Leo that something was off, but he shrugged it off. Dad was unusually excited, snapping photos, which he never did, and pointing out fancy details like crown molding. In a grand study with towering bookshelves, Leo found a carved wooden box tucked behind some dusty books. Inside was real jewelry, gold, gemstones, the works. Dad's eyes lit up, and he told Leo to stash it in his backpack immediately. I protested, saying this wasn't some random trinket. It was clearly valuable. Dad snapped at me, angrier than I'd ever seen. Then we heard tires crunching outside. Dad peeked through a window, his face draining of color. He whispered something to Mom, who looked petrified, and we bolted for the back stairs. As we ran, I heard voices inside, not security, but actual owners. This wasn't an abandoned estate. It was someone's home under renovation. We weren't adventurers. We were robbers. Dad yanked me toward a rear exit when a flashlight beam hit us, and a voice bellowed, "Freeze!" I turned and saw a security guard, hand on his belt. A loud crack echoed. Mom screamed, and I froze, thinking we'd been shot. It was just the guard smacking his flashlight against a wall. But I was so terrified I wet myself. Dad shoved me behind him, hands raised, shouting, "Don't shoot! We're leaving! We have kids!" The guard was livid. yelling about calling the cops and pointing at our backpacks, demanding to know what we'd taken. Leo, sobbing, pulled out the jewelry box. The guard's eyes widened, and he radioed for backup, saying we'd been caught stealing valuables. Sitting there, humiliated and soaked, I realized our whole childhood had been a lie. We were criminals. The police arrived and split us up for questioning. I spilled everything, every explorer's day, every keepsake, every rule. The officer's face grew grimmer with every word. They took us to the station, where Mom was a wreck and Dad kept trying to talk to us, but the cops wouldn't let him. They called our Aunt Clara to pick up me and Leo since our parents were detained. Clara looked at us like we were strangers, demanding to know what was happening. How do you explain that your wholesome, suburban parents had turned you into accomplices to theft your whole life? At Clara's, she made us shower and change. Then she sat us down and said our parents were in deep trouble, facing charges for trespassing, attempted theft, and, worst of all, endangering kids. Us. My parents, who made me wear knee pads for rollerblading and triple-checked my seatbelt, were now accused of putting us at risk. I tried calling Sophie to talk to her dad, hoping he could help, but Clara confiscated my phone, saying no calls until things were sorted. That night, I lay awake, replaying every explorer's day. The excitement, the matching backpacks, Mom's scavenger hunts, the picnics after. All of it was a front for crime. All of it could have gotten us hurt or arrested. The next morning, Clara got a call. Dad was being held on a high bond, but Mom was coming to get us. The jewelry was worth over $60,000, belonging to a wealthy family renovating their estate. When Mom arrived, she looked hollowed out, her eyes swollen. She hugged us tightly and said, "Last night was a horrible mistake. The other trips were different, just empty places. But your dad, he made a terrible choice." I lost it, yelling that every trip was illegal, that they'd known all along. I was shaking, furious, accusing her of making us criminals. Clara had to pull me off her. Leo just stood there, staring like he didn't know us. Mom sobbed, saying I didn't understand, but I stormed to Clara's spare room and blocked the door. Later, Clara coaxed me out, saying we needed to go home to pack clothes since we might stay with her longer. The police would be there to question us again. The drive home was silent, agonizing. At home, Mom sat us at the kitchen table, her hands trembling. "Your father has a problem," she said. "He's always been drawn to forbidden places. When we met, it was just empty buildings. But over time, he started taking things. Small stuff at first, then more. I thought it was harmless." I couldn't believe it. "So we were thieves the whole time?" I shouted. "Not you kids," she cried. "The keepsakes were just to make it feel normal, like a family game. He didn't want you to know the truth." She admitted Dad had been selling stolen items for years. Vintage lamps, old coins, even copper pipes. Our family trips, my art classes, Leo's music lessons, all funded by theft. I ran to the bathroom, sick to my stomach. When I returned, Mom was on the phone with a lawyer and Leo was staring blankly at the table. I packed my things in a daze, knowing nothing would ever be the same. The police came back with a social worker from Child Protective Services. They questioned us separately again. The social worker asked if I'd ever felt unsafe on our trips. I didn't know how to answer. My parents never made me feel in danger. But those crumbling buildings? Probably risky. One wrong step could have been disastrous. She asked if I knew it was wrong. "Not until Sophie's dad told me a few months ago," I said. "I thought it was just a little rule breaking, not robbery." She scribbled notes, asking about other secrets Dad might have had us keep. It felt like they were painting him as a villain. They let us stay with Mom for now, but warned of follow-up visits and a hearing to decide if we were safe with her. The next day, police returned with a search warrant. Our quiet street was swarmed with cop cars, neighbors gawking. They searched our house, pointing out Leo's shadow boxes and asking about them. Leo broke down, screaming that they were just worthless trinkets. When they bagged them as evidence, he lunged at an officer, and Mom had to hold him back as he cried. They found more. Our hallway mirror, a brass clock, even my favorite desk lamp. All stolen. I couldn't look at my own room without wondering what else was tainted. Clara pulled Mom outside, and I followed. She was furious, yelling, "How could you let this happen to those kids? What kind of parent are you? Mom crumpled, admitting Dad started small when he lost his job years ago. She confronted him, but he swore it was just forgotten junk. Over time, he targeted vacant homes with valuables, using our explorers' days as a cover. Mom said she wanted to stop, but they relied on the money. My art classes, Leo's music camp, our beach vacations, all paid for with stolen goods. I told her I was disgusted that our whole life was a lie. Clara tried to comfort me, but I pushed her away. The police took boxes of items and Mom had to go for more questioning. We couldn't stay in our house. It was a crime scene. So Clara took us back to her place. At school, rumors spread fast. Kids whispered and Sophie seemed awkward around me. A girl named Lila came up at lunch smirking. "Heard your dad's a master thief. Is your house full of stolen stuff?" I slammed the table, yelling at her to shut up. The cafeteria froze. I grabbed my bag and ditched school, wandering hound, staring at buildings and wondering if Dad had hit them. Back at Clara's, Mom was there, released but shaken. She said Dad's bail was sky high and we needed to brace for what was next. He faced serious charges and we might lose our house to pay legal fees and restitution. CPS was still watching us. I felt like my future was collapsing. First update. The morning after we were caught, police swarmed our house again. Neighbors stared as Mom, trembling, let them in. A detective explained Dad had been doing this for years, using our explorers' days to scout properties for later thefts. They pointed at Leo's shadow boxes, and he lost it, insisting they were just keepsakes. When they took them, he tried to fight back, sobbing as Mom held him. They identified more stolen items, a vase, a painting, even my bedside clock. My whole world felt like a crime scene. Clara dragged Mom outside, and I overheard her yelling about how Mom let us become part of Dad's crimes. Mom broke down, saying Dad started small when they were broke, and she ignored the red flags. The explorer's days were his way of making it seem innocent. By the time I was 10, he was hitting homes with valuable items, and Mom admitted they needed the money for our lifestyle. I was sickened. Every happy memory was tainted. We moved to Clara's, and school was torture. Rumors spread, and Lila taunted me, asking if I'd steal her stuff. I ignored her until she mocked a necklace Dad gave me, saying it was probably stolen. I shoved her hard in the locker room, and we ended up fighting on the floor. Teachers broke it up, and we both got 3 days suspension. Mom picked me up, looking exhausted. In the car, she asked if the necklace was stolen. I snapped, "How should I know what's real anymore?" She had no response. Suspension gave me time to help pack our house. We were moving to a tiny apartment across town. Mom cashed out her savings for the deposit. CPS visited again, questioning our stability. The caseworker asked if I felt safe with Mom. I said yes, but admitted I wasn't sure how much she knew about Dad's actions. After she left, Mom sobbed, terrified we'd be taken away. I sat with her, realizing she was just as broken as I was. Moving day was grim. We could only take what fit in a small truck, leaving behind anything that might be stolen. Clara helped, but she and Mom barely spoke after a fight where Clara accused her of enabling Dad. Mom shot back that Clara enjoyed our nice life without questioning it. The new apartment was bleak. Peeling paint, noisy neighbors, a musty bathroom. Leo and I shared a room, splitting it with a curtain. Mom slept on a sofa bed. That first night, I heard her crying. Later, I found Leo at the kitchen table with stolen trinkets, including a silver ring from Clara's. He admitted he took it, saying it felt like our old adventures. I was furious, but saw how Dad's lessons had warped him. We made a plan to return everything, and I told him to come to me if he felt the urge to steal again. CPS kept checking in, and Mom struggled to prove we were stable. Dad's hearing was coming, and we were losing everything. I overheard Clara say police linked Dad to 9 break-ins across 4 counties. Mom kept muttering, "He said they were empty. He swore they were empty." Second update. Dad's hearing was devastating. We dressed up like we were going to a funeral. The courthouse felt suffocating, and seeing Dad in chains was unreal. He pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including endangering us kids. His lawyer argued he was just a desperate dad, never violent, but the judge wasn't moved. The mansion owners spoke, the wife crying about their stolen heirlooms, the husband describing their fear of staying in their own home. I felt like shrinking into nothing. These were real people we'd hurt. Dad got 5 years, plus probation and restitution of $250,000. We'd have to sell our house to even start paying. In the hallway, Mom collapsed into Clara's arms, sobbing about how we'd survive. I held Leo's hand, feeling our future dissolve. We had 2 weeks to move out. Sorting through our stuff was agonizing. Every item could be stolen. Mom found more questionable things, like my old dollhouse, and we left them behind. School was unbearable. Leela and her friends called me thief's kid and mocked my jewelry. I fought her again, earning another suspension. Mom didn't scold me, she just looked defeated. In our new apartment, Mom worked double shifts at a medical office, but we were barely scraping by. CPS kept probing, and I defended Mom, but doubts lingered about her role. One day, I found Leo with more stolen items, including a watch from Clara's. He cried, saying it felt like our old trips. I helped him return everything, vowing to stop him from becoming like Dad. We visited Dad in jail, a bleak place that drained the life from him. He asked if I was looking after Mom and Leo. I wanted to yell that it wasn't my job, but instead asked if he ever felt guilty. He said yes, but justified it by wanting us to have a better life than he did. I couldn't respond. How do you process that your childhood was built on others' pain? Mom revealed she'd taken a low-paying job and was looking for another. Money was tight, and CPS was still watching. Leo got a cruel message from an old classmate, calling him a criminal's son. I blocked the kid and held him as he cried. That night, I realized Dad had taught us to be thieves, his rules and trips shaping how we saw right and wrong. Yesterday, Mom told us CPS might place us in foster care unless she could prove stability. She begged us not to worry, but I saw her crying over bills later. When I asked if she knew about Dad's crimes, she admitted she suspected but was too scared to face it, fearing we'd lose everything. Now we had anyway. Final update. Years have passed since I first shared this. I thought I'd moved past it, but Dad's release from prison 3 weeks ago brought it all back. To recap, at 15 I learned our family's explorer's days were Dad's cover for theft. He got 5 years, we lost our house, and Mom, Leo, and I started over. Life's been tough. We moved to a slightly better townhouse when Mom got a raise. I worked through high school, earned scholarships, and now I'm finishing a psychology degree at State University, probably because of Dad's crimes and Leo's issues. Leo struggled, getting caught shoplifting twice. A store clerk recognized our names, sneering, like father, like son. Therapy helped, but he still gets that look sometimes, like he's itching to take something. Dad and I wrote letters while he was inside, but I stopped visiting. It was too painful. When Mom said Dad would move back in after release, I was furious. We fought, me yelling about how he ruined us, her saying he'd served his time and deserved a chance. Leo sided with her, still seeing Dad as a hero. I didn't talk to Mom for weeks. She begged me to come to a welcome home dinner for Dad, saying she needed me. I went, not for him, but for her and Leo. Seeing Dad was jarring. He looked ordinary, not the villain I'd built up. At dinner he was quiet, and later we talked alone. He admitted he was selfish, addicted to the thrill of stealing, and never meant to hurt us. He swore he'd changed, but I wasn't sure I believed him. Now Dad's living with Mom and Leo, working a warehouse job and following parole rules. Mom says he's different, calmer. Leo's still in therapy, and we're working on breaking Dad's influence. I go to some family dinners, but I keep my distance. My studies help me understand. Terms like moral conditioning explain Dad's impact on us. I still notice entry points in buildings sometimes, and it terrifies me that I might carry his tendencies. Mom's job is steady, but they struggle. I help with cash from my campus job. CPS closed our case, but the fear lingers. Leo feels guilty about his old keepsakes, and we've returned what we could. Clara and Mom are better, but cautious. She's proud of me, which helps. Dad writes me now, simple letters about his life, ending with, "I'm here when you're ready." I haven't replied, but keep them. I'm focused on my degree and helping Leo. Forgiveness is hard, and I don't fully trust Mom's choices. But I'm holding on to our flawed family because letting go feels like losing more than I already have. Thanks for following my story. If you're invested in this wild ride, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell on my YouTube channel for more updates. Your support means everything.